Okay, so we're gonna do an appetizer and a entree. Both of them are pretty straightforward. So a croquette appetizer, croquettes are in every single culture out there. So Spanish culture, French, you can do meat, you can do fish, you can do veggies. We're gonna do a salmon croquette, which is something that I do pretty often up in Alaska for a past appetizer. It's really easy to make. It's something that if you are catching salmon, you're always going to have trim pieces on your salmon when you're cutting your fillets. And I always use those trim pieces, the tail end, the belly portions, when I'm cleaning up my portions and I make usually more times than not, I make salmon croquettes or salmon cakes. So the one I make is pretty simple, but it does lend itself to a lot of different spices and flavors. I'm making one that's very French inspired today, so herbs, garlic, a little bit of mayonnaise in there, some egg, salt and pepper, and then we will bread it. We'll pan sear it. We'll make a little lemon mayonnaise to go with it. And then for the entree, brine salmon, you don't have to brine it, but I do prefer to brine all my salmon and most of my fish I cook. And it's usually a very short brine. The salmon I'm cooking today is sockeye salmon. We brined it for 30 minutes, and then it just dries the rest of the day. And then we're gonna braise some lentils with some apple cider vinegar and a little bit of veggies in there. We're gonna roast some sweet potatoes with local honey. Actually, this honey is from Justin's brother up in Seattle, so it's not completely local, but it is regional to us. That Justin's brother gave to us from his harvest this year. And then we're gonna do a little vinaigrette with grapefruit and herbs. Citrus in the wintertime, this time of year, the citrus is the best. It's the season for really good citrus. So you could do this vinaigrette with grapefruit, which me personally, I'm not a big fan of grapefruit. It's probably my least favorite citrus, but I do love to pair it with fish. But you could do it with lemon, any kind of oranges, any of those kinds of things, and kind of switch it up. The whole idea is that you have this like kind of sweet tart vinaigrette that highlights the fish itself. So what I'm going to start with is the salmon croquette mix. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to cook everything and prep everything from start to finish. I'm not going to do this like a cooking show where, I kind of show you the method and then I already have this thing. I'm going to do this with you. And then, like Justin said, if you have questions, just reach out to him. You can ask me. I will be working pretty quickly. So if y'all do need me to explain what I'm doing, just ask him and I'll definitely explain. But otherwise, we'll get started. So we're gonna make our croquette mix. So I have salmon that I already chopped. I kind of diced it up, very small diced. And we bought this salmon that we're using today. We bought it from High Tide Fisheries. So it comes in these filleted packs. I know those of you that fish with us up in Alaska, you have your salmon that you catch and bring back, hopefully. So this is sockeye salmon. They're from our friends Kayla and Luke. And they have an awesome program up in Naknek where we are. And so we're using this. And basically, when I clean the salmon, I take off the tail portion, and then I cut the belly out a little bit and the top portion. And basically, what I'm trying to do.
Roughly how much did you dice up?
So this is I'd say a cup of salmon for this croquette mix. So it's completely pin boned out. And then like I said, my trim turns into the cake. And then I have my portions that are here. These are my 3 portions that I got from this fillet. I think everybody else maybe bought just 2 portions, which is fine. Okay, so with the mix, I basically skinned the salmon, and like I said, I small diced it, which is about a 1/4 inch across. I can show you kind of, it's about that big, you know. Some people, when they're making salmon cakes or salmon croquettes, they like to put their salmon in a food processor. I don't like that. It kind of creams out the salmon. I like the texture of making this like diced up salmon cake. So I'll just show you very simple technique of making this. So once your salmon's all diced, I have my mayonnaise. It's going to be about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise that we're going to put in there. Some of the parsley that I had you all purchase. So I buy flat leaf parsley. I hardly ever use curly parsley, but if that's what you have, that's fine. But yeah, I just take the stems out of it. We're gonna do about a 1/4 cup loosely packed of parsley leaves, and then we're gonna mince that up. So just take the stems out, gather your parsley. Use a basic chef's knife is what I like to use. Usually I will gather my parsley and kind of bunch it as tight as I can to where I can get a good like fine chiffonade is what we call it. Any of these big leaves that didn't get the first one, you just go back and put them really well. So you're not even trying to mince this parsley. I usually will go once into a ribbon cut. Now I'll go back the other way. It's just a rough chop, really. So you're not having to sit there and mince it or chop it for moments on end. So I'd say that once we chopped it down, 1/4 cup loose of packed parsley, is probably a tablespoon of chopped parsley. Then we are going to do a clove of garlic. I just have some peeled garlic here. We're just gonna smash it and mince it. Once that's pretty finely minced, it doesn't have to be, you know, grated mince, but pretty finely chopped. We're gonna throw that in the salmon
Is it okay for the skin to be on?
for the croquettes.
Yeah.
No skin. Take the skin off and then chop it up is
Okay.
what I would definitely recommend. And then we're going to take that shallot, cut the ends off of it. We're gonna split it. While I'm doing this, I'm gonna go ahead and have Kate start peeling some carrots for our lentils for the salmon dish. So really, for me, cooking, especially at the house, like it's always awesome to include as many people as you can. I cook for myself a lot, or for my girlfriend, or for friends, and it's always, I think, best to have people included in it if you can. So
Just don't do it wrong, people.
just don't do it wrong. I've been known to slap people's hands if they're peeling carrots wrong. But you know what? It's an easy process, and we'll have her do it.
Okay, there it is.
You can just peel it into this bowl. So meanwhile, I'm going to finish this salmon croquette mix. So I have half a shallot here. The rest of this shallot we're going to use in the vinaigrette for the salmon. We're also going to use it in the lentils that we're going to cook. But half a shallot, we're going to mince it just like we did the garlic for our salmon croquette. So go crossway. I'm not sure if people know how to cut an onion, but you're going to go in the onion, but not all the way through. It's 3/4 of the way through. And then you're going to go down on the onion.
Hey, Jason, we have a question. How many carrots are listed twice on the list?
Oh, really? So it's just 2 carrots total. So 2 single carrots. So as far as our shallot goes, we have our cross cuts in there and we're going to mince it. I really wanted to make sure people remember carrot apparently. So
Because it's a very important part of the job.
it is.
And that's why I was given this role of peeling those.
That's exactly why. Usually, if my girlfriend was here, she would be peeling them, or Justin would. Anybody who has the aptitude to use a peeler, I would really have in there. So in our mix so far, we have our diced salmon, we have parsley that we chopped up, we have minced garlic, minced shallot, and then we have our few tablespoons of mayonnaise. So I'm going to just toss that and stir it all together. And just kind of coat all that salmon really well, make sure everything's distributed. And into that, we're going to season with salt. I'd say a half a teaspoon of salt is going to be plenty with this. Once we season it, we're going to stir it some more. And what we're looking for is that everything's distributed, but we're also looking for texture-wise. So with a croquette batter, you want it to be wet, but that you can pick it up with your hands and squeeze it and it holds its shape. So if it's a little loose like this is looking, I will add some of my breadcrumbs to it just to kind of tighten it up. So it always depends on the moisture content of your fish as well. Sometimes you're going to buy fish from the store, it's going to have a high amount of water in it. And then if you're catching it fresh, it's not going to be as watery. So it just depends on the texture of the fish. And you just have to use your discretion. It's just like anything else with cooking. Once you make it a couple times, you kind of know what you're looking for there. So this one's not crazy loose. So I'm gonna add I'll start with a tablespoon of breadcrumbs. And I'm using gluten-free breadcrumbs and I use rice flour to bread these. And that's mainly how I cook usually is I try and do gluten and dairy-free as much as possible. But like I said in the initial email, you can use regular breadcrumbs, regular flour. I mean, that's the classic recipes there are. I'm basically going to stir those breadcrumbs in and just kind of let them soak up any of that excess moisture. This is a nice recipe because you can make it the day before and just have it in your refrigerator sitting. And then the day of or the night of that you want to use it, you can actually form them and everything. So it's nice to be able to make ahead. We'll check the texture of it. So we'll just take a spoonful, put it in our hand, squeeze it together. It's holding shape for the most part. And we're going to end up making little hockey pucks like that. So a little disc. And as long as it holds that shape and it's not super loose, that's all we're looking for.
Does anybody need? Is everyone caught up? Does anybody need a second? Chat, put in the chat if you need them.
I definitely recommend if you're cooking at home, you have loved ones around, to have a drink and to enjoy each other, have good conversations while you're cooking. That's the whole point of it. I think me as a professional, I kind of get focused, so I don't want to sit here and be a little robot for you. So if you're at home, you should definitely have a good time with it.
And
Um,
tonight Jason is drinking a wine that was gifted to us from our friend Whitney.
Oh yeah, it's a Riesling. It's really good with salmon.
It's a sparkling Riesling.
It's really good.
I'm having a little sip too, to be honest.
Okay, so once we have this mix done, I am going to put this in the refrigerator. And what you're about to witness is multitasking.
Can we just do a really quick review of the ingredients that you put in there?
Yeah, so basically with this salmon, I have a cup of cubed up salmon pieces. And like I said, you could use fillets. I usually use the tail end of the fish, the bellies, any of the trim when I'm getting the fillets. And you can just chop it up, rough chop it. So I have a cup of that. And then I have a tablespoon of chopped parsley. I have 1 clove of garlic that I minced down. Half a shallot that I minced. 1 tablespoon of breadcrumbs into this. And then I have 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. As it sits, those breadcrumbs are going to really hydrate, and it's going to become thicker and thicker. So you want to make sure that you don't use too many, because that gives you a dry cake. And that's often what you'll see in many places. So we're gonna switch gears, and we are going to start our lentils cooking and our sweet potatoes for our entree. That way we can kind of all have this come together at one time. If you need to slow it down, that's fine. But I think to keep this as economical as possible with time, that would be best. Should I be looking here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, we have this going.
Okay, cool.
So we
You're
put some
great.
veg-
Yeah, so salmon mix is going in the fridge, and while that's just kind of sitting, chilling out for now, we're gonna do these lentils. So basically the 2 carrots that Kate peeled,
and did a really good job peeling.
she did a really, really good job peeling. One of the best jobs. I'd say the only person I've seen peel carrots better is Nick Basaraba, who's in this class
Shout
right
out to
now.
Nick.
That guy knows how to peel a carrot.
He can
What
peel
can
a
we say?
Yeah, special skill.
So basically we have our 2 peeled carrots. We're gonna cut them in half.
What are you
just-
doing with the carrots?
We're gonna chop them up
But I mean, where are they going?
in the lentils.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you already say that?
yeah, I did. So basically, the skinnier the carrot, I would just cut it into quarters, so it's 4 pieces there. And just, we're gonna rough chop it, rough cut it down to like a small dice. Something that's going to cook in the lentils, but not be so small to where it just disappears. Okay, so once we have our carrots cut, then we're going to cut up our garlic. Out of that bulb of garlic that I had everybody purchase, we already used 1 in the salmon. And then we are going to use 2 little cloves of garlic. We'll smash them in the lentils. Smash them, and then just, I like to slice it across so you can see that the garlic is just sliced across the clove. I'm trying to see where the best camera, there it is. I like to leave the garlic a little bigger to where when people are eating the lentils, you'll get that kind of acidic punch of the garlic in the middle of eating it. So along with those 2 cloves of garlic, we're going to do 1 full shallot. So we have 1 full shallot peeled. And again, we're going to use the onion cutting technique that I was talking about. We're going to cut it across just once, and then just lengthwise once. And we're going to leave the shallot fairly big too. So right, like 1/4-inch pieces. So that's garlic, carrot, shallot, already chopped up. And basically from this point, we're ready to start cooking our lentils. So see if I can get in the camera there. If you bought lentils, today I'm using red lentils. You can use green lentils or black beluga type lentils. I wash these lentils in a sieve. So I take a colander, put my lentils in there, rinse them off really well with some cold water. These things are processed in facilities. They have a ton of dust and sand on them. And just like any dried beans that you're going to cook, it's good to see if there's any rocks in there. Oftentimes, especially with lentils, for some reason, you'll find little pebbles that are about the size of a lentil. You never want to cook that and have somebody eat that. So I just put them in a strainer, rinse them really well with some cold water to kind of get all that stuff and kind of pick through them just to make sure there's no rocks. So this is a full pound of lentils. It's 2 cups. Is what it measures out to. I'm going to put that in a pot. And then with the lentils, we are going to put in 6 cups of veggie stock or veggie broth. So maybe you bought veggie broth at the store, or if you really want to go the extra mile, you can make your own veggie stock. I mean, it's super easy. Mushrooms, carrot, celery, onion, some bay leaf, and takes maybe 30 minutes of time if you want to go the extra mile. But yeah, so we have 6 cups of veggie broth. We're just going to pour it in there. It's 4, 2 more, so that's 6.
How many pounds of lentils was it?
That was 1 pound is about 2 cups of lentils. And most of the time when you buy lentils from the store, it's going to be in a 1 pound bag. Along with the 6 cups of veggie broth, we're going to do 2 cups of cider vinegar. I prefer the Bragg's raw, organic, unfiltered apple cider. It's got the mother in there, so it's a little cloudy. It's not as clear, but it's got a ton of flavor. So we're going to pour that in as well.
Apply the vinegar.
So the cider braised lentils, that's the name of it. So you got to have vinegar in there, some apple cider vinegar. But I really like it because it kind of cuts through the umami or the savoriness of the lentils. And it just adds like a sweet kind of tart touch to it. And it's only 2 cups, out of 6 cups of liquid, or 8 cups of liquid rather. So it's not like all of the mixture is vinegar, but it adds a really nice tartness. So along with the broth and the vinegar, I'm going to put all my veggies in here. I might need a bigger pot. Make sure the pot's big enough because this is going to boil and simmer. And when in doubt, always go bigger, even if it's a crazy big pot like I'm about to do. No spill.
Nicely done.
That's years of practice right there, folks.
Good job, Jason.
2 cups of vinegar, right?
2 cups of vinegar, 6 cups of veggie broth. Okay, so basically in this pot, we have our vinegar, our broth, we have our 2 carrots, our shallot, and some minced garlic. Along with the herbs I had you buy, I had thyme on there, I do believe. And so with my lentils, I always throw either some bay leaf or some thyme in there. Just like this is 4 sprigs here of thyme. Keep them whole and just throw the whole sprigs in there. And that really just kind of perfumes and helps flavor the lentils as they're cooking. And the last thing we're going to put is the most important thing, in my opinion, besides the lentils, and that's salt, because you have to season it. So for salt, for this amount of lentils, it's going to be a lot of salt. So we'll pre-season it now and cook them, and then we'll taste them later on when we're ready to serve, and we'll probably end up putting more salt in. So I'd put 2 tablespoons of salt in initially. It's pretty amazing, dried beans and legumes, how much salt they actually take. Don't be scared of salt.
That was like 45.
Turns,
Yeah.
45
I counted.
turns.
Also, can we just take a moment and talk about this epic sunset right now?
It's a really good, it's the first sun we've seen in a bit.
A long time.
A long time.
Since we were in Louisiana.
It is really nice.
That's bright.
It's super bright. Okay, so if you come over to the stove, I'm going to put that pot on a medium heat. And we're going to cover that with a lid. And so basically with those lentils, we're going to bring that up into a simmer. And what I mean by a simmer is it's just getting to the point of starting to boil. Once it gets to that point, we're going to turn the heat down to where it just maintains a super light simmer. We don't want to boil it really hard. And these red lentils, in my experience, they cook pretty fast, 12 minutes maybe. Green lentils, usually about the same amount, 12 to 15 minutes. Black lentils will usually be a lot longer, 20, 25 minutes sometimes. But you don't want to overcook them to where they're super mushy. I like to kind of cook them al dente, like you would pasta. I like the flavor and the texture of that way more. So now that our lentils are cooking, we're going to start our sweet potatoes for the salmon dish, the main salmon dish. We're going to have a few things going on all at the same time, so I don't want to overwhelm anybody. If you need to just focus on one thing at a time, that's perfectly reasonable. But 2 sweet potatoes, we're going to wash them really well, and we're going to cook them with the peel on. Yes.
Kathy's wondering what temp on the lentils?
Medium.
Yeah.
Medium, and just let them come up to a simmer and then adjust the heat until they just stay at a simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes and taste them until they're just done. So we're going to wash the sweet potatoes. Crazy looking up there. It's all icy and then sunny.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. With these sweet potatoes, we're going to take the ends off of them. And then you can do whatever shape or size you want. I think for these, since these are skinnier, I'm going to keep them in rounds. And I'm going to keep them fairly thick. So I'm going to cut them just across into rounds, about I'd say a ½ inch thick, all the way down. Does anybody need me to slow down or re-explain anything so far?
Yeah, if you could slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone's hands are busy.
Okay, so I'm going to I'll basically put these sweet potatoes, once I cut them, into a pot. I'll just do some salted water in there. Should I revisit anything so far? Yeah.
Yeah, might as well just like.
Okay.
Quick,
So basically with the, what? What is it?
Kimberly said it's hard to get a drink in at this speed.
Yeah.
That's right, Kimberly.
I hear you,
He's not
Kimberly.
drinking anything.
It's kind of
I'll be
hard.
the accountability partner.
Once I start working, once I start cooking, it's just kind of it's a time thing in my mind. So I get in the zone and start going. So basically, yeah, we have that salmon croquette mix. It's just sitting in the fridge now. It's all chilled down. Does anybody need some help on that? Making just the mix, the cake mix? Maybe not. Okay, so that's good.
Back in
and-
the fridge.
Yep, back in the fridge. That can just sit there until we need it here in the next 15, 20 minutes.
In the fridge.
How much water and how much salt is gonna go in with the sweet potatoes?
All right, we got somebody who's right in line with me. So we have these 2 sweet potatoes. I have a 8-cup pot here, so 2-quart pot. I'm just gonna fill it with water just to where it goes right above the sweet potatoes. And then with that, we're gonna put in I'd say 2 teaspoons of salt. And we're gonna boil these until they're just cooked. We're gonna drain them really well. And then I'll show you the next part of the glazing and roasting those.
Nick's wondering if there's gonna be any kind of judgment on the workstation cleanliness.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I'd like to see everybody's cutting boards right now. Nick has obviously worked with me, and
Oh, we have some cutting board examples.
I would love to see some cutting boards just to see how
Listen,
everybody's.
It better be
working.
clean or you're gonna be judged harshly in this environment. And what you think is clean is definitely not as clean as how Chef Jason thinks it's clean. We've learned that around here. Yes, when you're like, man, I really kept my workstation clean. He's gonna say, no, you didn't. Should we preheat the oven at all?
Yes, so I totally missed that. That's a great question.
Good job, Heather.
Preheat the oven to 400 degrees.
You're gonna have to wait for a little bit to get it.
Set, go.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't need the oven right now, so if you turn it on right now, it'll be up to temp by the time we need it. So basically, sweet potatoes, we got our salt, our water just to cover them, or 2 teaspoons of salt in there. I'm gonna put a lid on. I cook with lids when boiling or trying to bring something up really quickly. Obviously, the physics behind that contains all the steam. It comes up to a simmer way quicker than if you leave the lid off trying to boil it. So we'll put the lid on there and we'll throw it on the burner.
Also, don't watch it, right, Jason?
Don't watch it ever. We're gonna turn those sweet potatoes on to same temperature as the lentils, medium.
Medium.
We're gonna check the lentils while we're over here. You might as well just visually look at them. Yeah, they're starting to get hot. Got some steam starting to happen. And so we're just gonna let those things roll at different temperature. We're gonna take a little drink break.
Drink break.
All right, to recap, so we have our sweet potatoes cooking. Just to let you know, those sweet potatoes, we're not boiling them until they're super soft, like you would for like mashed potatoes. We're just bringing those up to a simmer and cooking them long enough. I'd say once they're at a simmer, like 5 minutes, to where we can take a knife and pierce them or a fork. And they're just cooked through. They're not crunchy and raw. And then we're gonna take those off the heat and drain them as quickly as we can, just so they don't get super mushy and overcooked. And then same thing with our lentils, where once it comes up to a simmer, it's maybe 10 minutes. It's not like you're setting that on the stove and just walking away and forgetting about it 20 minutes later. So basically, while we have sweet potatoes and the lentils cooking, we're gonna make the honey. So we're doing a chili honey glaze on these sweet potatoes. So I have some honey here. Like I was saying earlier, this is from Justin's brother in Seattle. And he harvested a ton of honey this year. really big jar, and Kate's really been going after it. She's got a real honey problem. I'd say.
I have a honey addiction. My Jordan gave me this whole thing. And I think
Full.
he gave it to me in
Early November.
early November.
Yeah, and this is what we have now. So this is a real problem. I'm sure there's some support groups up there for people that have this kind of honey addiction, but
It's the best honey I've ever had.
Yeah,
Obviously, I
and-
really like it.
and we support her with her addiction. There's worse things in the world, so
Thank you.
we'll do that. So either way, we have this honey. Most everybody has a microwave in their kitchen.
How much, honey?
Well, I was about to say, so this is a 1/4 cup of honey. What I'm about to show you is I don't use microwaves very much, but they do have their place in a kitchen. And one is for this glaze we're about to make. So basically I have my 1/4 cup of honey. I'm going to take a clove of garlic and just rough chop it. Want to keep it, if you want to microwave it, put it in a microwave safe bowl or container, or like a measuring cup system. I'm using this little ramekin. So I'm going to put the garlic in the honey. And then the chili aspect of those sweet potatoes is going to be red chili flake, crushed red chili flake. We're going to do a teaspoon of chili flake in there. Just kind of stir it into the honey. So basically 3 ingredients: garlic, chili, honey. We're gonna pop this in the microwave.
I feel like this is like really behind the scenes chef life.
It is.
Putting something in the
And
microwave.
so if you don't have a microwave or you don't want to use one, I understand that. Or if you're doing a really big batch of this kind of thing, it's good to do it on the stove. You can put it in a small pan or a pot and do the same exact thing that we're about to do in the microwave. So I basically put it in the microwave I do it in 10 to 15-second intervals. I'm going to start it at 15 seconds, push it. And basically that honey is going to heat up. And it's going to infuse with the chili flakes and the garlic. And then we're going to stir that onto our sweet potatoes before we roast them in the oven and glaze them. It's just a really fast way to infuse the honey by heating it up. So that's 15 seconds. You can see the honey starting to kind of loosen up. You can see the texture difference in the honey. That's 15 seconds. Smell it. Starting to get some garlic come out on it.
Oh, yeah, that smells awesome.
It's not crazy hot, but I think we need some more time. So I kind of give it a stir and go another 15 seconds.
We have a weird microwave too, you guys, that's under the island.
It is weird.
It's the weirdest microwave.
It's a drawer microwave.
Yeah,
And it's strange.
it took us all a long time to find this microwave.
Okay, so let's check our stoves, see how the lentils are doing. My stove, the lentils are popping. They're right up to a simmer. So I'm going to take that lid off, kind of take it off the heat to bring it back down. If it's at a rolling boil, you're just going to bring that temperature back down.
And then adjust the temperature.
And then turn your temperature down to low. And then we're just gonna let those lentils ride on that low heat. We'll check in another 5 minutes. Our sweet potatoes are starting to get pretty warm. So our honey. Ooh, yeah, it's you can see the difference now that it's heated up, super liquefied. You can smell it. The garlic and chili are really starting to come out in
I
it.
can smell the chili now.
Yeah, so we're just gonna let that honey sit, and that's gonna infuse. And once our sweet potatoes are ready to go in the oven, we're just gonna toss our sweet potatoes in that, and then we'll roast them.
Is it important to shake it around like you were doing? here?
Yeah, I try to stir it and shake it just to distribute everything really well. It just make sure that all that honey is getting super infused with the chili and garlic. So basically with that, I'll just let that sit in a warm place, usually on the stove, wherever I'm cooking. Any area back here when your stove and your oven are heated up, it's just gonna be nice and a little bit warm enough to where that honey doesn't cool all the way back down. So just let it sit back there. Again, I'm always checking things, so our lentils are cooking. Let's give them a little taste just to see how far along. In my line of work, you eat a lot of raw vegetables. We're pretty close on these lentils. It's really important to kind of keep an eye on them. I mean, if you overcook lentils, it's not the end of the world, but I prefer to get it right, so.
Is everybody, does everybody that has lentils going, are they, getting close to being done too?
Really says her are still hard.
Okay,
All right, is she using green?
what color are your lentils, Kimberly? And is Tim your engineer? That's what we wanna,
Yeah.
green, no, that's Hewitt.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, the green
Green.
is gonna take a little longer. The red lentils, I think, cook the quickest.
green.
Green lentils in between, and then black lentils are the longest out of all of them. So like my red lentils, they're gonna cook probably in about half the time that your green lentils. So with my lentils, since they're red and they're already cooked, I'm gonna just take them off the stove and keep them in the pot, but just turn the burner off. And those things are done. They're ready for when we want to plate the rest of that dish.
Kimberly wants to know if you want her to turn the temp up to cook the green ones.
What do they look like? Are they simmering?
Are they simmering?
Is the liquid kind of boiling, simmering?
Simmering, just started boiling. So maybe I think we were going to get up.
I would say one thing I noticed when you were like simmer the lentils, like my knowledge of simmering before this moment was like, just like a little bit, not like there's not it's not as active. So I think
Wow. So I can do a brief explanation of what I mean by simmering, and I'll try not to get too nerdy with it. So you have
too late.
you have three different methods of boiling or cooking something in a liquid. You have poaching, which is the most like very low heat. It's at usually around 180 degrees, somewhere in there, 180 to 190. So it's just very, it's hot, but it's not bubbling at all. Then above a poach, you have a simmer. A simmer is in between, obviously, a poach and a boil. A simmer is 190 to somewhere in the 205 range. If you really want to sit there with a thermometer, but visually you can look at it and just tell that the liquid is just starting to move and little tiny bubbles are starting to bubble up in it. That's a simmer. A full-on boil is high heat and your liquid is just ferociously boiling, just like if you're going to boil pasta or something like that. So that's the three measurements, and boiling water is usually at 210 degrees.
Great. That's great explanation. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks. We have a new induction stove. There you have it.
What's that, Tim? You guys have a new stove?
Yeah, in our new barn induction stove.
Man, y'all got a whole crew in that kitchen. That's awesome. Kate's just standing here. You look like you have a sous chef in there. Okay, so in the sweet potatoes, we want it to so basically like if you go to if you switch over to the stove right now.
Oh,
My s-
Kimberly's showing you, her boiling. That looks like good simmer.
Oh, that's a perfect simmer. Maybe go up slightly on the temperature, just like a point.
And then
That's a pretty good simmer, and that's your sweet potatoes. They're going really well. Okay, so on the sweet potatoes.
nice.
On our sweet potatoes, mine are just coming up to almost a boil now, not quite a boil. And I'm just gonna take one and use a knife and just try and pierce it. It's still hard, so we're gonna let that go a little more. Now, if your sweet potatoes are already pretty far along and you can take a knife or a fork and just pierce it and it's tender, go ahead and drain those off in a strainer and let them sit. They'll be fine that way.
That was actually something I learned from Jason recently. He taught me how to make German potato salad. And after you boil the potatoes, you drain them and then you just let them sit and they like steam and cook themselves a little longer.
It's called steam drying is what we call it. And we use it when cooking vegetables, especially potatoes with the amount of starch they have in them. You can do this for poached potatoes if you're gonna, like roast them, or mashed potatoes if you're gonna cook them all the way through. Drain them out of that water into a strainer and just let them sit for even 5 minutes. All that steam, that liquid evaporates off of it and they dry out. That way, when you go to make your whipped potatoes or your mashed potatoes, there's not a bunch of liquid in there. You can make them really light and fluffy that way.
And they stay surprisingly warm.
They do.
Like
they
it's
do,
not like they cool down right away, which I think that was a misconception I had before.
for sure. Yeah, they don't. And with the German potato salad, you're poaching those potatoes, roasting them, so you're looking for a completely different thing. So while I have my lentils are done, my sweet potatoes are up to a simmer now. So they'll be done in the next 5 minutes. Our oven's already preheated, or most everybody's oven should be pretty close to preheated. I'm going to have Kate, my sous chef, do some breading.
Oh, I'm really good at this.
Recently, I taught her how to properly bread things,
It's true.
and it's one of those things where, for me, I take it for granted. I learned this when I was a teenager, but for Kate, world-class fishing guide, business owner, just badass all around. Breading was a really incredible thing to watch her learn. She was really fascinated with it. So we have our salmon mix here.
Wait, let's just take a moment and because you have some things done, you should take a drink.
Take a drink.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
This is our croquette.
Okay.
Croquette. So we have a basic breading station. I kept the eggs raw because that's a huge part of my breading station. I'm going to show you. Kate's going to show you exactly how to do that.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to let Kate teach this portion of the class. It's going to be something that's just people are going to marvel at this for years to come, I think. So basically we have rice flour. Like I said, I cook gluten-free, so I'm doing rice flour. I'm doing gluten-free breadcrumbs, but if you have regular flour and regular breadcrumbs, that's fine. And then we have our 2 eggs in here. So basically, Kate's going to show you how to make a proper egg wash.
This was not part of the
This was
program,
not
so I had
this.
to practice.
This is called a wild card, and this is going to be great for Kate, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Okay. Maybe don't pay attention to me cracking the eggs because I sometimes get some stuff in there.
You can throw them in there too.
Okay.
Emily forgot the crumbs and she's wondering if rice crackers would be a.
That would actually, if she ground them up or like crushed them up really well, yeah, that'd work. Or she could use straight flour. Straight flour would work too.
What are you gonna do, Emily? Okay, crack your 2 eggs in the bowl, whisk.
And then I'm
Here's
going,
the part that you didn't realize, that actually it takes more water than egg, because if you see this, actually, I'm gonna do it to this screen. We don't want it to be like that.
you don't want it to be gloppy, gloopy eggs, right?
No gloppy gloopy. We're gonna add a
So-
lot of water.
So 2 eggs, we're gonna start with a 1/4 cup of water in there
Look how much water is going in there.
and then beat that together really well.
See how it gets foamy? That's how you know you're on the right track. Now look,
You want it to be super watery egg wash, so it's getting there,
still gloppy.
just a little bit more. That was a 1/4 cup of water, we're gonna go with an 1/8 cup,
Can you
so.
even believe how much water he's putting in there? I think it's the most surprising thing about this. Oh, God. Wait, I feel like it's,
It's looking pretty good. It's gonna get really foamy, like Kate said. I'll hold it up. You can see all the bubbles in there. It's almost like when you whip egg whites or something. But very loose. You don't want any kind of stringy egg coming off of that whisk. And then she is going to do, so basically with my breading station, I'll just run through this really quick. You have your egg wash, you have your rice flour, you have your breadcrumbs. We're gonna season both the flour and the breadcrumbs with salt. Pretty good bit. When I make a breading station, I always make way more than I think I'm gonna need because it sucks to start breading something and then you run out of it midway through.
and I would say like, you're not a very wasteful guy, so you don't like
Yeah,
typically do that with stuff, so that's a good note, like it's
good
okay,
note.
okay to waste a little bit on this.
And then, so I salted the flour and the breadcrumbs. I'm only going to put fresh cracked pepper in the breadcrumbs. This is kind of a trick of the trade, I'd say, is seasoning both your flour and your breadcrumbs and then getting your egg wash to the right consistency. I'm just gonna stir that around really well to where it's super evenly distributed. Always use bowls or containers that you can do, like, you can set them in there. You're not gonna be super tight, having to like work around like a little cup.
Because one hand is dry, one hand is wet.
We're getting to that.
Well, that, I mean, that's why you need the little room, because your dry hand has to work without getting wet. That's
Okay,
the,
so
because,
I want to bring one of these sweet potatoes over. My sweet potatoes are done now. Just for anybody that's not quite there yet, I'm going to bring it over to the cutting board. So these sweet potatoes are perfectly done. I can pierce them with a knife and it goes through and there's no like raw crunch, but they're still held together enough to where you can cut them and like it holds its shape. It doesn't just smash. So at that point, we're gonna take them completely off the heat and just strain them. And I just let them, like we were talking about a minute ago, I let those sweet potatoes just kind of sit in a strainer. And just let them sit for like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna cut them. We're gonna toss them in that honey mixture that we made, and then they're gonna go in the oven and actually roast. So back to this breading. Here we go, croquettes. So proper breading is flour first, egg wash, and then breadcrumb. And then over here, we have our pan that we're actually going to go on to. So when you're breading stuff, I think it's the mise en place, everything that you do beforehand is really important, because once you start getting your hands dirty, then you're trying to grab stuff out of your cabinets and you don't want to get anything dirty. We want to keep it tight around here. So we're gonna have Kate start doing this. Y'all can kind of look at what she's doing as she's breading things. We're gonna take a tablespoon of that salmon mixture. Some, use nice heavy tablespoon. We're gonna form that in our hands into a ball. Then we're going to use our opposite hand and we're gonna kind of use our thumb and forefinger
Go forward a little. Yeah, there you go.
and just kind of form it into a cake there. And then we're gonna smash it down. So you're basically forming, like if you've ever made crab cakes or salmon patties, same thing. At this stage, you can do any shape you want. If you want to do a ball, you can make it a ball. You could roll it out into a cylinder. But when I'm doing like little past apps, this little tablespoon portion is going to be perfect. So we have this little patty essentially. It's like a hockey puck, a mini hockey puck. We're going to take that, we're going to put it in our flour and do both sides, and then each of the sides just kind of roll it around in there. Just make sure it's coated with that flour all the way around. Usually what I'll do is I'll reform it after I do each of these just to make sure that shape holds really well. So then we went all the way in the flour. We're going to dip it just briefly in our egg wash. Let any excess really drip off of there. As Kate was saying, we use one hand for our dry is the professional way of doing it, and one hand for our wet. So my left hand is going to be my wet. I'm going to put it in my dry. This hand that had the wet, the egg on it, is not going to touch the breadcrumbs. My other hand is, and that's just one way to keep your hands clean while doing this.
Remember, it's very clean program around here.
Very clean, very clean. The cleaner, the better, in my opinion. So basically, you're just getting those breadcrumbs on there, making sure it's fully coated. Again, I will kind of reshape it as I put it on my deal over here. Put it on there, and you're gonna just keep doing that over and over again. Think you can do it, Kate?
Questionable.
You got it.
Nobody came to this cooking class to watch me mess this up.
Or maybe all of them came here to watch you mess it up. It's looking pretty good.
You like it?
It's a good salmon cake.
Am I ready for dipping?
Little croquette. Yeah, you're ready for dipping.
It's not a very good shape, I feel like.
It's okay. You can, as you coat it and everything, it's gonna take shape. Doesn't have to be perfect.
It does. Okay, reshape.
Yep. Reshape, put into your egg wash. Perfect. Pick it up and then put it in your breadcrumbs. Shake it off really well. There you go. Yeah,
It's losing shape a little.
it's okay. You have a lot of different times to be able to reshape it. Get breadcrumbs all over the floor. Did y'all see
Strike
Kate
one,
do that?
Strike one. Oh man, strike one and dirty kitchen already. Sorry, Nick. He's gonna beat me later.
No, I just lock her in the closet for a little bit. It's okay though.
And Doug says that's why you have dogs.
That is
Thanks,
very
Doug.
true,
Thanks,
especially when it's salmon. Those puppies are definitely gonna want whatever's on the floor.
We had to bring Kata's bed right closer to the kitchen
Yeah,
because she was uncomfortably sitting here watching us.
yeah, she smells salmon. She's gonna want it.
She's also Jason's direct manager.
Yeah, she is. She's the head of HR for Frigate Adventure Travel / the Lodge at 58 North. Everything goes through her. All right. Yeah, it's looking pretty good.
Not
So-
bad, folks.
So I will say, I'm gonna say a couple things about this croquette recipe. So one, this can be made the day before. You can do this entire process and bread this and keep it in your refrigerator, just wrapped up the day before. If you're gonna have people over or holiday party or something, it's so that's one thing that's really nice.
Like this, at this stage, you can put it.
Yeah.
It won't get soggy. Just right.
It will get soggy initially, but once you start cooking it, it's going to crisp back up and cook just fine. So that's really nice. And then another thing is it can transfer across many different boards. So you can use other kinds of fish, whether it's rockfish or some sort of white fish like halibut or cod or something like that. Same recipe is going to work with all of those. And you can add a lot of different spices to this. So, you know, depending on what you're going for, you can add some curry spice in there and make it like a curry type croquette. You can add, you know, garam masala, so like an Indian style spice, and it makes it really nice, or some cumin and chili flake, and you can kind of go different ways with this. So with our mix now, it looks like Kate's got 4, 5, and maybe another, so probably 6 total, I'd say. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Hewitt's gonna do hers with curry, I bet.
Curry?
Guaranteed, Emily.
Curry's a good call.
Emily's definitely gonna do hers with curry. Justin would do his with curry.
I love curry spice. If you do it with curry, you can do it with a lime mayonnaise instead of a lemon. Which brings me to my next thing. So while Kate's doing this, I'll try and get it on camera. I'm going to make the lemon mayonnaise for this croquette.
Heather's got a question. Do we drain the lentils when they're down or let them sit?
Let them set. Just take them off the heat. Take them off the heat. I'll try and get a picture of it, but right here I use like a resting rack. I'll just put my pot on there to where it just kind of cools down right over there.
And Kimberly says that she made 4 and she's wondering if they're too big. Is size a consideration?
Size can be a consideration. I mean, 4 is going to be plenty. You can always cut it in half, and make, you know, 8 instead of 4. It just depends. Like the size of these ones that we've made here, they're almost like a crab cake that you would get at a restaurant if you order an appetizer. If you want really small ones, you could cut this mixture in half. So instead of a tablespoon, you could do a couple teaspoons, make it a little bit smaller. These are kind of what I serve. Like this is about an ounce, I'd say, total, maybe a couple ounces. This is what I'd serve as a past appetizer. And I'm trying to, I mean, I guess you can't really reference my hands, but, you know,
He has medium-sized hands.
I have medium-sized man hands.
Maybe put something beside it.
I'm trying to find something that we could put in there that everybody would have at their house.
Like a coffee cup.
Coffee cup.
Like the bottom of a coffee cup.
Maybe what about a toothpick?
There you go.
Toothpick's something that everybody probably has.
I'm really am happy with how I've done here. I hope everybody else is happy with how your breading process has gone. Because I feel like this is a small accomplishment.
Everybody.
How about a little measuring cup?
We're gonna use a coffee cup.
All right.
So it's just a basic coffee cup. Yeah,
We'll do it on here.
it's about 3/4 of the size at the bottom of a coffee cup. So like I said, like if you went to most restaurants and ordered a crab cake dish or something, that's probably the size you're going to get. You can make them smaller. You can make them even bigger. You could form this entire mix into one if you really wanted to. So from that mix that we made, using the tablespoon that we used, we yielded 6 croquettes. They're all breaded. They're all pretty nice looking shapes. Now that that's breaded, we can sit these to the side. I'm gonna show you how to make this mayonnaise real quick, and then we can do this dish all in its entirety.
Is everybody ready for that?
I think the one, Alice was just, her potatoes were taking more time. Alice, are your potatoes cut up?
Yeah, if the potatoes are caught up, then we can start cooking our potatoes while we do this, which would be ideal.
Hers were just taking her longer because she's at a higher elevation.
Okay. How are they doing? Are they?
Okay. And where these potatoes are ready.
Good.
Does
Do you want me-
anyone need more time on the potatoes?
Does anybody need more time on the potatoes? Do you want me to put these back in the fridge now?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put these back in the fridge. So
Yeah,
we
so
can
the
get that.
salmon croquettes will go back in the fridge. They'll just sit there. They're breaded. They're ready to go. I think to keep on multitasking, so everything. What does that say?
Taters are Dunzo, Washington.
Dunzel, Washington. I
Yeah.
really like that a lot. That's good. We're gonna go ahead and get these sweet potatoes in the oven so they can roast while we're doing everything else. That way it kind of all comes together at the same time. That's what we're always looking for. So can you grab me a piece of foil? So we have a baking dish here. We're gonna put a piece of tin foil down on it. We're gonna put a little oil, or if you have some pan spray that you want to hit on it, that'll be fine. We have our sweet potatoes that we poached and we dried off. They're in a pot. We're gonna pour our honey over them.
Looking at those dishes, Nick.
Looking at those dishes,
Well, I didn't wanna do the dishes, so I feel like it's gonna be really loud.
does everybody need a dish break, you know? Because in professional kitchens, we clean as we go so that when we're done with a shift, we don't have a stack of dishes in a destroyed kitchen, you know? So,
So Nick, we're gonna need you to get on the dishes.
or Kate's gonna do them tonight, actually.
I'm definitely not doing the dishes.
Okay, start.
Racing around the background.
Do your dishes, Nick. Okay, so we have our sweet potatoes. We've tossed them with that honey. We're gonna throw a little bit of salt on those as well.
Yeah, we are.
So I'd say like 2 teaspoons of salt, just distribute it evenly on there.
15 cranks on the salt shaker.
15 cranks if you have our kind of salt shaker. Like I said, with the bottom of this roasting pan, you want to put a little oil.
Can you show everybody your oil thing? Your oil delivery device?
I have a squeeze bottle. I'm using avocado oil. It's okay to use vegetable oil or grapeseed or any of that, but my general purpose oil that I use is usually going to be olive oil or sunflower oil. They're better for you, a little bit kinder on your system, and they can withstand really high heats. And they're a neutral flavor, so you're not covering up anything like if you were to use olive oil.
Jason doesn't use canola oil or like the vegetable oil you buy.
I don't use canola oil. It's really high in saturated fats. And it's been proven over time to have really bad fats in it. And nowadays you can find avocado and sunflower oil in bulk at Costco or any store. It's worth a couple extra bucks. And it's a lot better
For your
for
health.
you. Yeah, for your
For
health.
your health.
It is for your health. So now that we have our roasting pan seasoned with the oil, we're gonna lay our sweet potatoes in there. I'm a little OCD, so I try and line all mine up because I'm a psychopath in that way. I don't just pour them in there.
That's not the only way, folks.
I'm not that much of a psychopath.
No,
I'm a lovable psychopath. I
Yeah, we
hope
love
so.
you. You're our favorite psychopath.
crazy person.
I visually like the way that they're displayed myself too.
Yeah, I think for a person that likes organization, just being able to lay them flat in that roasting pan.
Make sure you get
It's
all the,
just, yeah, pour that honey out of the pot, really kind of scrape it, get it on top of there. And then that's it. That's going to go in your oven now. So that can be roasting. Your lentils are done or should be close to done.
Let's give it a couple minutes before you put it in, that way everyone, catching up.
Can catch up to it.
Well, or not at the same time.
Okay, hopefully everybody's got their croquettes breaded. We're gonna make the sauce for that dish and complete that dish next.
I think Pam's fighting with the foil.
Fight, yeah. Foil can be hard, man.
you gotta put the foil in both. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Am I right though? You gotta buy that bulk foil,
The bulk foil,
like at Costco.
yeah, so if I could really make another suggestion to what people are doing at their homes, buy the big commercial grade plastic wrap. If you cook it a lot and you use plastic wrap, and buy the bigger roll at Costco of commercial grade aluminum foil, it will save you so much stress in the kitchen.
And you'll
It's-
never run out.
And you'll never run out. It'll probably take you 10 years to go through it. Usually takes me a couple months based on how much, we're cooking and whatnot, but, man, using those the little Reynolds wrap boxes, they can be a pain in the ass. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw these potatoes in.
Looks like everyone, yeah, I think everyone's pretty.
Everybody's caught up. All right, we're gonna throw these potatoes in the oven. Let those mix.
How long are we gonna?
We're gonna start a timer at 10 minutes. And we're gonna look at them after 10 minutes, and they're probably gonna need another maybe 10, 12 minutes afterwards. So probably total, it's gonna be about 20 minutes, I'd say. So meanwhile, while those are roasting, our lentils are done. I'm gonna make the sauce for those croquettes. So it's a lemon mayonnaise.
Should we just check, make sure everyone's caught up here?
Yeah.
Did anyone,
Need anything? Does anybody need anything so far? Is everybody feeling pretty good about where they're at?
Everybody take a drink and.
All right. Heather's got thumbs up. Let's see. Yeah, drinks. Kate's peer pressuring everybody here.
This is how we slow your roll.
okay, looks like we're all caught up.
All right, cool.
Oh, Anna Storkner, she had beluga lentils in there.
Man. So let those things just keep going and just kind of keep an eye on them, that's kind of what we say is off the cuff cooking. So you're just letting those things roll while you're getting these other things done.
You put this, Anna.
Anna, you're gonna crush those lentils. And I love beluga lentils. If you can get them from the store or order them, they're my favorite personally. They're
Why?
delicious. They just have really good texture. They don't get the texture, yes. Okay, so we're gonna make our lemon mayonnaise. So, like I said in the initial email, you can use like a nice Duke's mayonnaise, which is where I'm from. That's the king of mayonnaise. So you can use something like that. Lately, I've been using, if I use a mayonnaise, I use like an avocado oil mayonnaise. So let me see if I can bring it over here.
All the dishes are done.
Our dish pit is clear. It's looking good.
No
I'm
more
pretty
stink eye
excited.
from Jason.
So I have, I'm gonna hold that up. So I just have like olive oil mayonnaise, which it's really nice. I think it's like we were just talking about with oils. If you buy like Hellman's, even Duke's, like they're using canola, they're using pretty bad oils in there. It's not the end of the world, but I personally like the olive oil style mayonnaise.
This cooking class sponsored by Best Foods LLC.
How much mayonnaise do we need?
So we have a quarter cup of mayonnaise in this ramekin here. Quarter cup. It's just straight mayonnaise. If you're an overachiever and you know how to make aioli, by all means make a nice aioli, because that's French mayonnaise. I mean, that's where mayonnaise comes from, is aioli sauce is the French. They put garlic and they put lemon in there. It's super bright. Kind of has that spicy garlic taste to it. It's a really classic sauce in Europe for different things, from croquettes to fish, on potatoes, all kinds of things.
Jason is taking the little
Stem.
stem part off the
I'm
lemon
just
right
taking
now.
the stem off of the lemon. So what we're going to use off of these lemons, we're not going to need both of these just for this mayonnaise. We're probably going to need one of them. We're going to zest probably 2 teaspoons of this lemon zest into our mayonnaise, and then we're going to use probably a tablespoon of actual juice, and we're going to stir it into that mayonnaise really well. So zesting, I use microplane, and they might look like that. They might be any number. We have a lot of microplanes here.
Wow.
So
Is there anything that people can use in
in lieu, you can use a grater. So
All the way at the bottom.
like a box grater. You could use a box grater. I would go on this side one that's really the fine one, or on the really fine one. Either or, you could use that. You can always use a peeler, and I can show you that method. If you don't have a zester, if you don't have a grater, but you have a vegetable peeler, you can just very lightly take that zest off of there and then mince that up.
Trick of the trade.
That's just a trick of the trade if you don't have a zester. But if you don't have a zester, you should buy one for your house. They're very useful. I love them.
If you don't have a grater, you should also buy one.
Yes, you should definitely buy a grater. You need to grate things in your life, potatoes, cheese, whatever it is. The one thing I do like about the zester is it gets it really fine. So basically we're gonna zest, like I said, 2 teaspoons of zest right into that mayonnaise.
So you're making sure you don't get the white part, right? You're just getting the outside skin.
Yeah, so basically with zesting that lemon, it's, we're not going down into the pith is what it's called, which is the white part of the peel. That's really, really bitter. And it will overcome a dish really quickly. So it's just the outside yellow part of the zest.
So how light are you graining it so you don't get in the
I don't know,
the
pounds per square inch, I'd say.
pound per pound? If it was a fish,
Two and
how
a
hard
half.
would it be?
2.5 pounds.
So like, is it pretty gentle?
It's pretty gentle. Yeah. So like even try it. Just see what gives you zest on there. See, just back and forth on it. See?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty light.
Yeah, I've obviously not done much zesting in my life.
Yeah. And the newer and sharper your zester is, it doesn't take anything. You're just kind of rubbing that lemon across it, and it's
Gently.
just coming off of there. You can bang it like this. It really gets that zest off of the blades. Look at that. And it's super fine. It's really fine zest, which is what we're looking for in this. Okay, so once we zest that lemon,
How much zest did you do?
that was 2 teaspoons. Once we zest it though, we're going to cut that lemon in half. And I use a juicer, like you use a bar juicer. I also do, when I'm in a pinch, I use a slotted spoon like this,
Oh,
and squeeze my lemon into that slotted spoon to where it catches all the seeds. Or if you don't have a slotted spoon, you could use a colander, like a small little strainer. But we're gonna take that half of a lemon, we're gonna juice it completely into that mayonnaise. So we're looking for it to be pretty loose. It's gonna kind of loosen up that mayonnaise and it's gonna really brighten it up.
I like that term for mayonnaise. We're brightening it up.
Brightening that mayonnaise up. So we're gonna, now that we have that juice in there, we're just gonna stir it together really well. I'd say probably 2 teaspoons of lemon juice total if you're trying to measure it out, if you're not comfortable with that.
You want it loose.
Yes. Always taste it. So we're looking for it to be pretty acidic, but also kind of mayonnaisey and rich as well. Try it. Tell me what you think.
Can we put this in there?
Yeah.
It's bright. It's really good.
Very bright,
Yeah.
very fresh,
I
very
never
citrusy.
used bright to describe mayonnaise before. And it's really, that's exactly what it is. It's really good.
It's very bright and fresh. Should be very acidic. Because if you think of, we're pairing it with basically a fried food that's pretty rich and fat and oily, and we want this to really cut through that when somebody eats it. So our sauce is done.
We
We're
have
gonna-
some spotters on the cutting board need to be cleaned up.
Yeah, we
Remember?
clean our cutting
Clean as
board
we
up.
go, folks.
We lost Alice for a little bit. Alice, did you catch that? Okay, Alice, what do I add to the mayo and lemon? That's it.
That's it.
Just lemon zest, lemon juice, and mayo.
Okay, Heather says we're at the 10-minute mark for the potatoes.
How does it look?
How do they look?
Let's look. So over here, I think y'all can see that camera angle. Mine are really starting to sizzle away in there, but there's no color or anything, so I'm just gonna throw them in for another 10 minutes. We're gonna start cooking our croquettes now. All right, so over at the stove. Do I need to turn this light on this thing, or?
I think it's
Okay, good. Okay. I have a cast iron pan. I use the cast iron for a lot of whether it's searing meat or cooking roasting vegetables or something. So we have a 8-inch cast iron pan here. We're gonna turn it on to a solid, I'd say almost full blast, like 3/4 of the way you can go. And while that's heating up, we're going to put in a 1/4 cup of avocado oil. So it's the same oil that we were using for the sweet potatoes. And it's just making sure that you have enough oil in the pan to really coat the bottom. We're not deep fat frying, so we don't need enough that it submerges them. But we need enough oil to where when those cakes go in the pan, they're not going to just absorb all the oil and then start burning. But as we have our oil in there, it's gonna start heating up. I'm just holding my hand over it. You can kind of feel the heat coming off the pan. We don't want this oil to ever come up to burning or smoking. We want to keep it right at that medium type of heat where it's cooking, but it's not actually burning anything. That's very important. If you go too high on your heat, you're just going to overcook the outside and the inside of whatever you're cooking is going to be raw. Trick of the trade, see if your oil is hot enough. You take a little bit of breadcrumbs or flour that have fallen off on that pan, kind of drizzle it in your pan. You just kind of sprinkle it in there. If it starts sizzling, it's ready. If it's not, it'll just sit there in the pan. So like mine's not quite hot enough. I'm just gonna sit here and wait another minute or two. So mine's starting to kind of spit and spatter. Oh yeah. So as soon as you can sprinkle, you know, like a piece of breadcrumb or flour in there and it starts sizzling immediately, that's when you know your oil's hot enough. So we're gonna take those expertly breaded salmon croquettes and we're just gonna put them in the pan. So I think in this pan, I could fit probably 4 at a time. You don't want to overcrowd the pan. Overcrowding the pan will cool the oil down. And then it will actually absorb that oil and make it super soggy. So it's very important to kind of take your time. Like if you're using a bigger pan, you might be able to fit all these. If you're using a smaller one, it might only be 2 cakes at a time. But for this little 8-inch, cast iron, we can fit 4 of these in. They all have enough room. They're not overcrowding each other. They're sizzling now. They're cooking really well. I'm going to turn my exhaust fan on just to catch any of that. Maybe a little bit. I use a spatula. This is called an offset spatula, but you can use a normal spatula like you're at your house and all you have is something like this. You can use this kind of spatula. I use a small offset spatula. It's kind of for professional cooks and chefs. Like this is one of our main tools for flipping things, for plating. When we're plating really delicate things, we're using these kind of smaller palette knives or offset spatulas, what we call them. Okay, so our salmon cakes are cooking pretty well. You have to regulate your temperature. So mine's getting pretty hot. I'm going to take my pan off just so it's not heating up too much. I'm going to turn my burner down to, a little bit below medium. I'm just going to let my pan roll. That residual heat is going to keep those things cooking. One thing I can see is on the side of it, and I can't zoom in, I think, but on the side of my cakes, I can kind of start to see it getting brown. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these. Yeah, there we go. We call this GBD. GBD, I'm pretty sure some people have heard it. GBD stands for golden brown and delicious. And I'm pretty sure McDonald's probably coined that phrase. And whenever you're pan roasting or frying something, golden brown and delicious is probably the best thing you can accomplish. So I'm gonna try to hold this pan up. We got a nice little crust on there. We flip them over and we're gonna put it back on that burner and just let them keep going. One important thing while those are cooking is I usually will have a separate plate or a tray. I'll put a piece of parchment or even a paper towel down on it. That way, once those are cooked, we can put them on here and we have a place for them to go. We're not going to plate those immediately.
That looks great.
So we have our piece of parchment just on either a sheet tray or a roasting pan, whatever. We're probably about to hit the 10-minute mark on our sweet potatoes, imagine. So I'm going to check those again. Oh yeah. We're getting toasty now. Like mine are starting, the honey's all bubbled up on the sides. I'm going to flip those over. So what I do about midway through cooking is I'll flip them all over. It can be tedious if your hands are really sensitive. It can be a little hot, but it's definitely worth it. That's kind of the glazing aspect of these sweet potatoes. You want to cook them all the way over with that honey kind of encapsulating them.
That's where that small spatula really comes in handy.
The small spatula, yeah, it really, when you're doing these kinds of things, it's perfect. You're just gonna do a flipping motion. And it flips those things right over. So we're gonna flip those and we're just gonna throw those sweet potatoes right back in. All right, our salmon cakes are pretty much there. Oh yeah, they're cooked. So once that second side gets the same, the GBD, golden brown delicious, we're just gonna put that right onto our little plate with parchment or paper towel. And then we'll do our next batch in there. The whole time you're having to regulate your pan heat, so sometimes your heat's gonna get too hot. You have to turn that burner down. You may have to take that pan off of that burner. But you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on it. If that oil really starts to burn, you're going to want to pour that out and do some new oil. But it's all about managing the heat of the pan. You can't just put it on the heat and expect it to go the same exact temperature. It's going to keep heating up. So like I have my pan off the burner right now and it's still cooking just fine. I'm going to let it sit there for like a minute or two. Let that oil come down 15-20 degrees and then we'll put it back on that heat.
Drink break.
Drink break.
How come you don't put the salmon patties on, the tray?
On what tray?
The like.
The
cooling-
same tray?
No, the cooling tray. Like the rack, the cooling rack.
You can.
Yeah.
But we're gonna plate these right now.
Okay.
So like at the lodge, usually if we're cooking these kind of roasted crispy things way beforehand, we'll put them on a resting rack. And that allows them to kind of cool down to where they don't steam and sog out. But since we're plating these right now, I'm not going on a resting rack. And what I mean by a resting rack is like just a normal little baking rack, as you can see here. I'll use these pretty often for cooling off bread or like fried things. Like as you fry it, you put them on these. Because as you sit it down, it's gonna expel a bunch of steam off and it can sog out the bottom of it. But right now we're about to plate these things and we're gonna eat them immediately. So I'm not really worried about it.
Kayla's the lentils are just getting there. How al dente? Like what is she looking for?
She's looking for them to where she can chew them, and they don't just completely get stuck in her teeth.
That's a,
I mean,
that's a
that's-
great, way to decide if your lentils are done.
that's really
Do they get
about
stuck in your teeth?
trying to think of a better descriptor, but I think that's it.
That's great.
Okay, so our other salmon cakes, our last two, are just about done. Sometimes I'll move them around in the pan and that just make sure that they're evenly cooking all the way. See the second side of these, just about maybe another minute.
The power of suggestion. I'm hungry.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. I can't wait to eat these.
Okay, so while those last two are cooking, We have our sauce done, our mayonnaise sauce. I'm going to cut these green onions. These are chives. I couldn't get green onions today, so I'm using chives. And this is more of like a garnish. You can cut both chives and green onions the same way. So I'm just gonna kind of mince them. Or if you have green onions, just slice them really thinly.
Could you do that the day before or you?
No,
fresh?
you're wanting to do this fresh. Even if you made the sauce the day before and the cakes, you breaded them the day before.
Yeah.
You want to do this fresh because you want that onion smell and flavor coming off of them.
Got it.
So that's done. That's kind of our garnish. Got our sauce. Let's take these last two cakes off. Oh yeah, so both sides are equally done. Golden brown, delicious.
CBD, baby.
GBD. I use that term a lot. It's because it's a descriptor. So you have all this oil now in this pan. I would take it off the burner and just kind of let it sit. It's gonna cool down. And then you can pour that either into your trash or something. I'm gonna reuse this pan when we actually cook our salmon here in a minute, so we'll keep that there for now. Take our cakes. Okay, so cake. We have our three components here. We have our lemon mayonnaise. Some people may want their lemon mayonnaise a little thicker. If you want it kind of like a dip, you can add more mayonnaise to it. I do mine pretty thinly because I like to do really pretty presentation. Pretentious presentation is what a lot of people would call it.
I would never.
So we're gonna plate these and I'm gonna do it in a way that is kind of like an individual portion. Let's see if we can get that there. There we go. All right. Cutting board mitigation. We're gonna clean up our little work area here. So we have these nice bowls. Put it up here. That's a better view, I think.
Made by their Salmon sisters.
These are Salmon Sister bowls made up in Alaska
In
that and Homer and Justin got them custom made for us last year. Really nice bowls, but you can put this on a plate. You can do a platter. What I'm about to show you is kind of it's just going to be two bowls. We're going to do 3 cakes per. That way, like if you have like a dinner party or something, you could put this at the coffee table and then this second one at the bar, at your kitchen counter, where, but you know, depending on where people are. So basically, I want to take the sauce and just kind of drizzle it around the bowl or the plate, whatever you're plating it on. I'm going to set my 3 cakes in there. I'm going to shingle these. I think that'll look nice. You're gonna have some sauce left over. That's on purpose. So I usually take a little bit and I put a little bit just across the top to where you can make sure people get some of that sauce on there.
That likes your shingle term.
Shingle,
Yeah, that's a pro chef term.
shingle it.
That is a pro chef term.
How do you-
Also a roofing term.
Oh,
What's that?
we really said that she ate it.
She ate them. Good for her. So you have your sauce, you have your cakes in there, and then I take those green onions or chives and I just put it all on top. These things are great for, like I said, they're so versatile. You can season them with different things. You can kind of have the main components prep the day before, so you're not having to do a ton the day of. And they look really nice, and it's a good way to use up, you know, fish trim. If you have like a full fillet or something, you're able to use some of that trim up on there.
Can I see your phone to take a picture?
You can. It's over on the table there. So this is kind of my finished product. not the prettiest thing I've ever done, but it's not the worst thing I've ever done, I don't
It's
think.
beautiful. Oh, I think I got a great photo.
Fantastic.
Look,
Oh, yeah. Kate's a regular food photographer over here.
look at that. Expect to see that on Instagram tomorrow.
What does everybody think? I mean, I think proof's in the pudding. You have to try it.
I cannot wait. I'm so hungry. Yeah,
Oh,
Justin?
Yep.
that's good.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. So
That's so good.
it's a pretty clean dish.
Mhm.
Like this salmon that we're using it's really nice sockeye, so it's got decent fat, but it's not overly fatty, I'd say. So you add that mayonnaise in there and it's like really rounds it out.
That's so good.
Our friends Luke and Kayla caught this in their set net. I will eat that rest of that sauce.
Ah.
In Bristol Bay. And then had this processed and we were able to get some, which is so cool. This is so good.
What does everybody think? Anybody need anything with that dish or feel like it needs something? Everybody happy with it? So good. You should eat David's.
That was so good. I love the lemony mayonnaise.
So if you were gonna switch spices, we'll talk about that for just a second. If you were going to kind of make a variation of that dish, I would always keep the mayonnaise the same. I would always keep the garlic and the shallot the same. And your breading process. But if you want to switch flavors and let's say do a curry, I would put a couple teaspoons of curry powder in there or curry seasoning. And then with the lemon mayonnaise, it would go well with that. But I think what would go with curry better is lime, so you make a lime mayonnaise. You can make it Southwestern or kind of a Latin American style. You could do chili powder in there and some cumin, and then make the mayonnaise like a chipotle mayo, which our sweet young baby Gabe, who's a guide for us, he pretty much lives off of chipotle mayo. We were just having a conversation the other night that he's probably going to start a hot sauce company that's all chipotle mayo, just different varieties. But that would be a great dish. And it's just ways of making variations of it to where it's not the same thing every time if you get kind of tired of it over time. You can serve that. Like I said, you can make really small ones, make that like a big platter of it for like a party or something like a hors d'oeuvre. You can make them big and make like a little salad on top of it and make it kind of like a crab cake type deal. But yeah, we do these fairly often. And we have endless variations of them. They're pretty easy once you get the process done down and kind of repeat that process and get it all kind of fluid. Really good dish though. I like that one. So we're gonna continue right along. Our sweet potatoes are in the oven.
Kim says that hers are looking good.
Okay, so
Her, potatoes.
sweet potatoes are in there. Emily, you said yours looks like shit, but it's delicious. That's just how it is. That's your first time making it, and that's how cooking is. Like the first time I've ever done a dish, holy cow, I think the first dozen times I've done dishes throughout my career. And even now I've done things hundreds of times. I still look at them. I'm like, man, that doesn't look quite good enough. But as long as it tastes good, that's really the everlasting thing we're going for, right? Especially at our house. You're never going to have a guest over at your house and cook something for them. And if it's really good but looks like shit, they're never going to complain about it as long as it tastes good. So yeah, lentils are done, sweet potatoes are in the oven. I'm just gonna let those sweet potatoes ride all the way through. So they'll kind of get crispy on the edges, they'll start to roast up. And we're just gonna let them ride. You don't have to worry about them burning. If you look in there and they're starting to get a little charred, just take them out. It's fine. But I'm gonna let mine ride. In the meantime, we're gonna make the vinaigrette, so the sauce for the salmon. And then basically we'll cook the salmon and we'll bring that dish all the way through.
You wanna eat this last one?
I will afterwards. Maybe I'll eat some of mine right now. It's actually, why not?
Why not?
I'm not used to really, cooking for people and also eating the food. It's a series of tasting. It's a lot of tasting.
That's good for you.
Mm-hmm. That's an expertly breaded salmon cake. Just
You
saying.
know what? Learn from the best.
I'm just saying, like,
Oh, it's so good.
maybe if Kate wasn't a fishing guide, she could go work at Joe's Crab Shack or something like that,
I need to get to work at the lodge at 58 North. I'm not that good. Well, Nick, looks like job security, dude.
Nick's
My
got that
mom-
job.
Would roll over.
Hmm.
That was good. Yeah.
All right, everybody's ready. Everyone is ready.
All right, we're ready for the salmon.
That's awesome. Everybody's ready.
Good program.
Yeah, good job.
Okay. We're gonna make the sauce first. So it's a vinaigrette. I really like making vinaigrettes for fish. I also like making vinaigrettes for chicken as well. Really transfers well. You're able to add fat in there. You can make it sweet. You can make it really tart. Right now, what we're about to do is make a really bright citrus vinaigrette, almost like that mayonnaise. It's gonna be super colorful to where when you pour it over the fish, it's got all these herbs in it, a little bit of mustard, all of that kind of stuff. So we're gonna start with a bowl. I get the stuff off my chin.
Yeah.
Thanks. We're gonna have some herbs. We have our grapefruit over here. I have a little bit of thyme. I'd say a sprig of thyme.
Are you taking the stuff off the time?
Yes.
Let me do it.
So she's gonna strip my thyme for me, just strip the leaves off of there. We're also gonna do some parsley in this vinaigrette. So this is just all the prep work for it.
So you gotta get the little leaves off the stems. It's really excruciatingly painful.
It can be tedious. One thing I can teach everybody is if you rip the bigger sprigs off of there, like that one, and you just hold it on one end and you strip it all the way down.
What about the very end when you do that?
Hmm.
You just don't worry about it?
No,
Ah, it's good to know. We're not trying to get all the time off the leaves.
no, you don't have to be crazy tedious about it. I mean, it's nice if you do, but
Ain't no one got time for that.
ain't nobody got time for that when you're cooking.
It's
for
a
your
waste,
family.
it is a wasteless kitchen though. So
It is, like, we don't want to waste a lot.
Jason's not trying to waste stuff and we don't want to get in trouble.
Like, you're not gonna get in trouble at your house if you don't strip all the thyme leaves off.
Unless
But
Jason-
Kate, she might get in trouble, like strip all those leaves off of there.
Heather's been drinking wine and eating salmon cakes. How much time does she?
So we did 2 sprigs, and I think once we chop it up, it's gonna be about a teaspoon. I'd say a teaspoon of strip thyme. As thyme leaves.
This much, Heather.
Is it? Okay, along with the thyme, we have our parsley leaves. I'd say,
I planted some parsley today, by the way.
oh, nice.
Inside.
We're gonna get some. Get some parsley. So we have a tablespoon of just parsley leaves with the thyme. We have 1 grapefruit. We have half a shallot here. If you don't have any shallot left, that's fine, but I do, so I'm going to use it. So basically with our thyme, we're going to just mince it up. Just really go over it well with a knife. Can you mince that?
Yeah. Okay, I think that's some thorough mincing. I think he's gonna want us to mince this next. He does this thing where he folds it all over. And then. Make sure you keep your knuckles out. I started on the parsley for you.
Good. You can chop it down more.
I thought you would want to finish.
I can if you want. I'm trying to get it as much work done by somebody else as I can. It's called getting ahead.
It's called delegating.
Delegation station. So yeah, you're just gonna chop these herbs down. I really prefer to mince them, like really go over them. One other thing I was gonna say about making this vinaigrette, I'm about to make it by hand in a bowl with a whisk. You can also throw this in a blender or food processor. That works just as well. And it is way quicker. I'm just doing this the old fashioned way.
I'm doing this the old fashioned way. Do you like the level of this mincing? You want more?
I think that's good. So if y'all can kind of, yeah, you can kind of see where our herbs are. They're pretty fine, you know, there's some fine cuts in there. I mean, we could go a little, we go a little more.
Watch your fingers. Oh, look at this.
So then I added the thyme into the parsley and she's just chopping them both together now. I'll show y'all some tricks. This
we go.
gets, it's a little painful to watch. So basically I'm using my knife blade to scrape some of that in. Get my pile going, and then you're using that rocking technique, going one way, and then you switch directions. And then you kind of turn it over. Same thing. He did a pretty good job though. this
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
So-
she did it. So we're gonna throw that all in the bowl. That's all of our herbs.
Clean up the cutting board now, everybody, after you're made a mess of it. Remember, we clean as we go. Keep that clean. Keep the chef happy.
Chef
your-
Tappy.
Keep your cutting board clean.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this little bit of shallot that I had left over. If you don't have any, that's fine, but if you have some, we're really gonna mince it, so we're gonna go as small as possible on that.
I was this many years old when I learned how to cut a shallot.
Same as an onion.
I was also just learned how to cut an onion.
So minced shallot, you know, as small as you can get it. I mean, it's not really, in the end, it's not gonna make or break the dinner if you can't get it that small, but always sharp knives, use a nice sharp knife. It's the best thing to do. Okay, so we're gonna do our grapefruit next. I'm about to show you all another tip of the trade. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna segment this grapefruit. We're gonna use those segments as a garnish on our final dish. And then we're gonna squeeze the juice out. The juice is gonna be for our vinaigrette, and the segments are gonna be for our garnish. So it's gonna make that final dish look really nice. So you take your grapefruit, you stand it on end to end here. You slice one end off. You try and get enough off to where you start to get down to that flesh. Flip it around. Same thing on that end. So basically you have both ends off, lay it down flat. And then I use my knife and I just shave that peel off of there. If you can't really see it from this angle, I can hold it up. And I'm going to show you how to. This is the method. So you're just going from one end down to the next end. You're just taking that peel right off of there. That might be a better angle. But the easier way to do it is to sit it down, do it like this. Okay, so you basically have this grapefruit. You took all the peel off. Hang that up. This is our clean grapefruit. So you can see on the grapefruit, you have your segments, right? So we're going to take each segment out with a knife. You just cut a V cut and you take that segment out and just drops into your bowl. So we're going to just put those segments into the bowl.
Oh, so you're leaving the.
You're leaving the entire core and all this pit that runs throughout the grapefruit.
Oh,
And you're just taking out the segments.
that is a good tip.
So this is, in French cooking, they call these supremes.
Supreme?
Yeah, it's a supreme, spelled supreme, but it's a supreme. Or a lot in America, we call it the segments. So that's going to be our garnish. You have these nice, clean little grapefruit segments. In our bowl that we already have our herbs and our shallot in, we're going to take that entire grapefruit and we're just going to squeeze that juice in there. Most grapefruits don't have a ton of seeds. You can kind of feel them or see them and pick them out if you need to. They're usually pretty big. This one's got a couple. There's one. So you're just squeezing out as much juice. I'd say probably total, like this one looks like it yielded almost a quarter cup, which is going to be plenty for what we need. All right, so that's our vinaigrette base. That mustard that I had everybody buy, that's going to go in our vinaigrette now. That's considered an emulsifier. I like it because grapefruit's pretty acidic and tart. We're going to put the mustard in there. It's going to kind of round out some of that tartness. But also it's going to add just another element of flavor to the dish. So for this, it's a quarter cup of grapefruit juice I have in there. I'm going to put a teaspoon of whole grain mustard. You can also use brown mustard. The only thing I wouldn't use is like French's yellow mustard, just because that flavor will be kind of off-putting. And off-putting means bad.
Don't do it. It's trashy.
Okay, so we have our mustard in there. Let's just whisk all that stuff together, just kind of combine it. This is going to be a broken vinaigrette. So it's going to be a vinaigrette that we make. And you can see the oil and the citrus juice kind of separate out. It's not going to be emulsified like a ranch dressing or a honey mustard or something. I kind of flip back and forth depending on a dish. If I really want something super aesthetically pleasing, I'll make an emulsified vinaigrette. And y'all can ask me how to make that. We can make this into emulsified vinaigrette, but it's a lot more time consuming, a little more skill involved with it. For this one, we're just gonna make a broken vinaigrette, just a normal everyday vinaigrette. So we have all that stuff in the bowl. We're gonna whisk it. We're gonna use avocado oil. So it's a 1/4 cup of citrus juice, teaspoon of mustard in there. And we're just gonna start drizzling in some oil and whisking it at the same time. I would say 1/4 cup of oil total is what it's gonna come out to.
Like
Just kinda-
almost equal to the amount of grapefruit juice.
Almost, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That point, once I get all that oil in there, I'm just gonna put 1/4 teaspoon of salt in,
8 grinds.
8 grinds. We're gonna taste it, and then we can tell if we need anything. So like right now, mine is, it's acidic, but not overly acidic. It's not like when you taste it, it's not just punching you in the face. The oil is kind of rounding it out. I get a little bit of the mustard in there, ton of herbs. Like the herbs are really nice. I feel really good about mine. It's kind of a balance between citrus and herbs and shallot. Would you like to try it? Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
What if somebody feels like theirs is too acidic or is,
So-
missing something, like,
If-
what do you do?
If you think that it's too acidic,
Oh my gosh.
I would add a little more oil. If you think it's not acidic enough, then obviously we need to go with a little more citrus juice in there. Sometimes what happens with citrus vinaigrettes is they're just over the top. They're way too astringent, which means acidic. So you're gonna want to add like a little bit of honey or agave. And when I say a little bit, like a 1/4 teaspoon, and you stir that in there, taste it. Okay, it's balancing, but it needs a little more. So you put a little more in there. You're never doing like a 1/4 cup of honey in there, you're doing little tiny amounts. Just trying to find that balance in the sauce.
Look at Timmy. He likes the sauce.
Timmy's doing it.
Timmy, do you think it's too much acidic? No, it's just right. Oh my God, he's so cute.
As a cute puppy.
I love Timmy so much.
Okay, so the vinaigrette's done.
Speaking of dogs, we love. Look at this one.
Oh, yeah.
It's Timmy.
This is just now becoming a unsanitized kitchen. We're holding dogs up. Okay, so our vinaigrette's done. Our segments for the garnish are done. So basically where everybody should be at this point is your sweet potatoes are in the oven, or maybe you took them out because they started getting a lot of color on them. Your lentils are done, they're cooked. We're gonna cook the salmon. We're gonna take this dish all the way to completion. All right, so if we can go to the stove. Back to the stove. This cast iron that I use for the salmon cakes, I poured that oil out. I wiped it out with a paper towel. And now I am going to heat it back up. So this time when I heat it up, I'm going to turn it on low. We're not going to be on medium. We're going to be very, very kind of low and slow. This is going to be a trick for cooking fish that a lot of people, I feel like, don't really take their time on. And you hear different things. So some people say that you need to start your fish or your fish in a very hot pan in order for it not to stick. That's not necessarily true. It needs to be the right pan. So it either needs to be a non-stick pan or a cast iron. I use cast iron for these things because it evenly distributes all the heat and maintains heat really well. Or if you have a really big non-stick pan, you can do it in that. But what I do is I do it from a cooler temperature. So like right now I have it on low. I just put a little bit of oil just to coat the bottom of the pan. I have my salmon fillets. So these are brined and portioned, and then I laid them skin side up in the fridge so they could dry off really well. I personally like the skin. I like crispy skin, so I always cook a skin on. But if you don't have skin on, that's fine. And if you didn't brine it, that's fine as well. I would highly suggest taking the time one day and trying it brined. So basically, I'm just gonna use some salt and I'm gonna season that flesh side, which is just even crank of salt on there, not a ton of salt. Just
And
gonna-
we, Jason was recently featured in Bon Appetit with his salmon brining recipe.
yeah,
So we included that in the invitation, a link to the Bon Appetit article about brining salmon. It explains it and goes into depth on how to do it and
Yeah.
why.
and I highly suggest brining. It's one of those things that doesn't really take long. And it will completely change your texture, and your flavor in the salmon. It doesn't matter if it's super fresh, or not, like it will change the entire aspect of that salmon. Okay, so slightly warm pan with just a little bit of that neutral, that avocado oil. I'm going skin side down in that pan. You don't want it to be hot enough to where that skin is sizzling. We're gonna gradually bring up the heat in that. So like, I just put it in there, there's no sizzle, there's no sound. I'm gonna go ahead and take my heat from low and go up to medium. Again, just like the salmon cakes, I have a tray or a plate. I have a tray here with some parchment on it. And that's going to be where I put the salmon once it's done. And check my sweet potatoes really quickly. Oh yeah, so on mine, they're ready. So I'll try and hold it up. We're starting to get some color where that honey is starting to kind of caramelize. The skin on the sweet potatoes is kind of roasted and wrinkly. That's what we're going for. So I'm just gonna take those out. I'm just gonna leave them on the stove there. What happened? I don't know. So our salmon, if you can see it, it's just starting to kind of sizzle around the skin. This is a slower process than most people are used to cooking salmon, but it yields perfectly cooked salmon with crispy skin every time. Like I said, if you don't like to eat the skin and you want to skin off, that's fine. But a lot of people will throw it in a really hot pan, and it doesn't really cook it evenly. It sears the outside, and a lot of times the inside's not as good.
Nick, where are you?
Where's Nick? Did Nick leave?
Nick, did you abandon shit? No, there.
Oh,
Okay.
Nick, that's
Ruby.
Nick's roommate.
Nick, we can't
That's
see.
Andy. Andy's watching me. He's making sure I'm following directions correctly.
Andy, are you
Washing dishes.
he's sous chef?
Sous chefing.
Yeah, it's a very important job, Andy.
Pretty
It is.
impressed by my vinaigrette making skills.
Oh, yeah, lots of
That's good
experience.
vinaigrette. It is.
And nice chopping skills, Kate.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
She's practiced it over the years.
I've
for
been
sure.
watching for the last month. Actually.
We got a good view of that. That was pretty impressive.
Thank you. I learned from the best. Doug, how are the Cleveland Browns doing?
The Cleveland Browns got blown out by Houston, but the Chiefs are winning right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, go Chiefs.
It's chilly there though. It's definitely affecting the game.
Yeah. Okay,
That's-
thanks.
That was supposed to be one of the coldest games on record they were predicting, I think.
Yeah, it's currently it's not as cold as Bozeman, but it's -4 at Arrowhead right now, so pretty chilly.
Yeah,
Okay, so back to our salmon over here. You can see in this video, so we have quite a bit of pop sizzle cracking going on there. If I hold a piece of this up, you might be able to see some of the albumin on the salmon is actually starting to cook out. That's good. You want to keep that heat just nice and steady, right at medium. At this stage, if you're able to move the salmon and it's not stuck to the bottom of your pan, just kind of rotate it around a little bit. All that does is that ensures that you're going to sear it evenly across the board. So I just kind of usually will rotate it like, counterclockwise by a half turn or so. We're just going to keep that letting go, let that go on that skin side, basically until we're about halfway cooked. And then once we're about halfway cooked, we'll flip it over. The biggest thing with salmon, just like most meat and fish, is you overcook it, it's overcooked. You can tell immediately. And it's kind of a shame to get to this far in the process and then you overcook it. So, but if you do, sauce is boss. That's what we say in the industry. So you just cover it up with a bunch of sauce and you hope for the best.
you eat it anyway.
How's everybody doing out there? We have any questions right now?
Have a drink.
No questions. Just kind of going. Now's a good time while the salmon's cooking to taste your lentils. I would taste them. And like I said, when we first started cooking them, beans, dried beans, lentils, that kind of stuff, they take a lot of seasoning. So chances are we're going to have to add some more salt. We may have to squeeze some more lemon in there. We still have a half a lemon left here from when we made our mayonnaise. That's always really nice in lentils and beans, really kind of gives them depth. Yeah, mine are not too far off, but I am going to add some salt. As far as, I don't think it needs any more acid with that cider vinegar in there. Like they're pretty bright. They have a lot of that cider vinegar flavor. I think mine need salt, and I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in, and that's just going to help kind of round out that acidic flavor.
You want to do it under the cutting board?
I can do it. I can even do it on the stove here. So,
Yeah.
can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to add, a pound of lentils yields a lot. This is going to be lunch, and man, you can do so many things with lentils. You can cook some chicken tomorrow and eat it with the lentils. Perfect.
Never said that her lentils are briny.
Briny, like salty. So add a little bit of olive oil to them and then add some salt. That's going to help bring them to like a more of a umami, like savory place. We want them a little bit briny. That's the point of doing the cider vinegar braise. Is you want them to have a little bit of that acidic flavor, but not crazy in your face.
Get out.
So I have some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm gonna do like maybe 3 tablespoons and just stir it in there really well. Taste that. Bagger.
Oh, she smells the salmon cooking.
Kata, anytime she smells salmon, whether we're cooking it or cleaning it, she comes around. It's crazy. She's got a nose for it. Okay, so my lentils, I feel like they're nice. They're slightly acidic, but now they've got a lot of depth of flavor to them. Looking at my salmon, I'm gonna try and hold it up in the camera. So you see the white, the albumin starting to cook out. The fillet itself, like you can kind of see the edges or a little bit of opaque. That means I'm gonna flip this salmon over. Once I flip this salmon over, it's only gonna cook for about maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And then we're gonna take that directly off the heat onto our pan. So with the salmon skin, since I dried it out, I started slowly. It's kind of like, it's almost like a crackling. I don't know if anybody here knows what a crackling is, but or a chicharrone, which is Spanish or Mexican style pig skin that they puff up and they fry. That's what I'm going for on this salmon skin. It kind of puffs up if it's dry enough and if you crisp it enough. And it really, I really like salmon skin a lot. It's got a lot of really good oil in there. A lot of people don't like it though, so it's really whatever floats your boat, I guess. All right, so
Kimberly says that she loves her crackling.
crackling. Love me some crackling. When
They're
we're-
Virginia, they know what.
Oh yeah, they're from Virginia. Southerners know about cracklings. Okay, so that's about a minute. I'm gonna take mine off. You can count on carryover cooking. So that salmon, even though it's out of the pan and not technically cooking in the pan, it's going to carry over for the next probably 5 to 7 minutes. It's going to keep cooking. So I pulled it off. I'd say if we ate it right now, it's probably mid-rare. By the time we plate it and actually eat it, it's going to be about medium, which is what I prefer. Some people, it depends on the salmon, really. Sockeye, I like medium. King salmon or something like that. Like I prefer it medium rare, so a little bit less cooked. So that salmon's done. We're gonna go back over to our cutting board. We're gonna plate this. How should I do this? Maybe put my plates on the cutting board. Yeah. All right, yeah, that should be visible for everybody. Okay. So lentils are gonna go down first. I use a slotted spoon, so a spoon that's perforated. That's just because your lentils are more than likely going to have a lot of sauce in there. You just want to drain some of that out. I'm going to put it at 12 o'clock on the plate. I'd say probably, I don't know, a cup on there. You don't have to plate it all fancy, obviously, if you're at home. You don't really care, but
We care.
I care. Yeah.
We care.
Yeah. So
Everybody here cares.
So we're gonna I think the biggest thing is using that slotted spoon, because there's a lot of
Here,
liquid.
show here.
Yeah, there's a lot of liquid coming off of there. You can see it just dripping off of there. So I just kind of drain a lot of that off of there and put it right on the plate. 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock,
12 o'clock.
past to 12.
Yeah, this salmon, I think, is perfectly cooked. If you didn't brine your salmon, I would season the skin at this point, but since I brine my salmon, there's already a decent amount of salt in it. I'm not gonna brine it at all.
Oh, you're not gonna season it at all?
I'm not going to because I brined it, but if you didn't brine your salmon, just do a little sprinkle of salt on there. It never hurts.
Make sure when you do the lentils, you don't get the thyme sprigs in there.
Don't get the thyme sprigs in there. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? So I'm gonna put my
This is-
salmon kind of at 6 o'clock. What?
I said it is in this kitchen. I'm making Jason's plate, by the way.
So I'm gonna put salmon at 6 o'clock. I'm gonna take my sweet potatoes and just kind of shingle them off that left side. Down from 12 all the way down to 6, down to the salmon.
There you go, Doug. There's that shingling term again. Beautiful.
That's really hot.
I'll get mine.
You all be careful there. Yeah. Now we have that on there. Now we're gonna take our vinaigrette. So if you have skin on salmon and you took the time to make it crispy, don't put your sauce right over top of it. We're gonna kind of put it around the sides of it. That way you don't sog that skin out. I always take my sauces and just do like little drips like on the accompaniments to where you kind of get that in every bite. You're probably gonna have some leftover vinaigrette, which is good. It's really good in salad. You know, or if you want to make this dish again tomorrow or something, it'll hold for probably a week before it's bad. All right, so that's our sauce, and then we're gonna take those grapefruit segments and just kind of put them around the plate to where every few bites you're gonna get that kind of fresh citrus in there.
Cool.
That's it. So I will say with this dish, something that could be really nice if you want to go a little above and beyond is like a fennel salad. Like take some fennel, shave it, and dress it with that same vinaigrette, the grapefruit vinaigrette, and just kind of put it right in the middle of the plate or on top of the salmon. You could also do like an arugula salad, buy some arugula, toss it with that same vinaigrette. And we call it a garnish salad. And it just kind of adds like a fresh, crunchy layer into the dish. But this dish, as it is, I mean, there's basically 4 components. You have your salmon, you have your grapefruit vinaigrette, you have your lentils and your sweet potatoes. This dish, as is, has pretty much all the components that we're looking for, as far as taste, texture, roundedness. I know it took us a little longer doing both of these dishes, but you could easily make this dish in an hour. Once you make it, you can make the lentils the day before and then just have to roast sweet potatoes and salmon. It'd be great for meal prepping if you want to make meals that you're going to take to work or something. Like you can make all of this. It's going to hold really well. And that's it. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Looks awesome.
Yeah. I guess we have to eat ours too. Do you want to try it?
Yeah, I definitely want to try it. I was thinking about giving my skin to the dogs. They're hungry.
There any questions?
Thank you. It was absolutely lovely. The dinner is beautiful.
So fun to have you, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you, chef.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason. It is fantastic. We're pouring some bubbly to go with it.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Got that sparkling Riesling to go with mine. It's perfect.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fun. Now we all have a new salmon dish in our repertoire.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Jason,
think,
this harkens back to my question to ask you about how to make my salmon skin crispy. So thank you.
crispy fish can be kind of tricky, you know, there's so much water involved. So I dry mine skin side up, and if you throw it in the fridge for a couple hours and let that
Very
air
nice.
kind of circulate, it'll kind of turn out very crispy every time. The longer it has to sit with that skin side up, the better.
I've got a question. Sorry if I missed it earlier. If my lentils they're a little bit acidic still, what do you think I should add to make them?
A little olive oil.
Okay.
Yeah, a little more olive oil. I just kind of stir it in. You
Mhm.
can also use butter if you don't care about dairy. I prefer olive oil because it keeps the overall flavor of those lentils kind of rounded out. Butter
Mhm.
really dumbs it down big time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll give that a try. Do you think olive oil while it's still like in the pot, or you think I could just drizzle some olive oil on it after I plate it?
You could drizzle the olive oil on the plate. That's perfectly fine. If you have decent olive oil, just kind of drizzle it around.
Yeah.
Like I stirred olive oil just straight into the lentils in the pot, so it's not nearly as acidic.
Mhm. Awesome.
I will say with your lentils, you want some of that, you definitely want that cider vinegar coming through. And you want if it's really done right, your carrots should kind of have the same texture, like have an al dente flavor to them or a texture to them.
Mhm.
Everything shouldn't just be mush. That means you're going a little too far.
Mhm. Do you think I've got green lentils. Do you think, I know you used red lentils. Do you think that changes the flavor profile to it and makes it like maybe?
No, it doesn't. The flavor's still the same for the most part. It's really texture when it comes down to the different varieties.
Mhm.
Did you
Awesome.
add olive oil to it?
I haven't yet. I added a little bit earlier, but I haven't added any more yet.
I like. Sweet. Well, let me know how it turns out once you add a little more in there.
Yeah, I will.
This is so good.
We're just eating ours standing in the kitchen. This is how a lot of professional cooks do it. You eat standing up in your kitchen or back in the dish pit's it's an obvious place. Like I've eaten many meals in my adult life, just standing next to the dishwasher.
You're literally.
I just added a little bit of olive oil while I was on the plate, and I think that definitely
Kind of
helped.
rounds it out a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. How is everybody's sweet potatoes in there? You kind of have like that chili honey glaze on there. They're sweet, but they should have like a little bit of spice. If you like really spicy food, you could add a lot more chili to it if you wanted.
Emily.
Is
I think the
everybody,
honey chili pepper is my new favorite thing. I'm just gonna use that on everything now.
the honey and chili flake?
Yeah, I think David and you almost have a matching shirt going here. You've got
Oh,
like
really?
stuff.
Nice. Twins. We're
Let's see.
twins. Let's see it. Oh, yeah,
well,
almost.
And
Yeah,
his mouth is too full to comment, but he's happy. So
It's awesome.
Nick, you and Andy are eating yours. I see. Is it good?
It came out pretty good.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
I didn't get my grapefruits right, Jason.
Why?
What happened?
I think the knife was too dull.
Oh, shit, man.
Good
Yeah,
knife.
we messed that part up.
Yeah, you need to have some self-respect and sharpen your knives.
I
okay?
know. Yeah, we don't have that.
We have
here.
no self-respect.
Yeah, I can see that. I will say with the grapefruit, like I was saying earlier, you can use grapefruit. I personally don't like grapefruit. It's probably my least favorite citrus of all. I like it in this dish because it works with all the flavors. But you could sub in oranges, you could do lemons, limes, just depending on what you want to do. I think it's really important if you learn how to cook dishes to kind of find different ways to flavor them so it's not the same all the time. That way you can kind of change up the game. You don't get a lot of palate fatigue is what we call it. So you're tasting the same thing every week or every couple of weeks and you kind of get tired of it. You can kind of learn these different tricks of like, I'm going to use orange on the next one, orange vinaigrette, or I'm going to use black cod instead of salmon or whatever it is. Like you can kind of switch it up and do different things, which makes it nice for your weekly routine.
Yeah, would you do this with a different fish?
Mm-hmm. I think this dish would lend itself really well to halibut. Rockfish would be perfect on this dish. Cod, any kind of cod, ling cod or black cod, I think would be great. I wouldn't do tuna. Tuna's a little more on the side where this is a little richer. Probably a little too rich for a tuna dish. But I think the rest of those would hold up and be pretty nice. Does anybody have any questions or anything?
I stopped writing down measurements about, halfway through. Would you be able to send those out after?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can send measurements. I also have a video of me cleaning my salmon earlier. So I'm going to send that video out, I think, to everybody. And we're always around for questions too, whether you email us or text me or text one of these guys.
We recorded this video too.
Yeah. We did some recording so we can replay it. I can listen to my voice. I hate hearing my voice on camera or anything. It's always the worst.
You sounded great.
Thanks, Kate.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us and being a part of our first cooking class.
Yeah, come here, Justin.
That was right about the best way to get the bones out.
Best way to get the bones out of your salmon. Yes. These are fish tweezers and you can buy them off Amazon. I think these are Messermeister, so they're made in Germany. There's a ton of companies that make these. The biggest thing that I like about these fish tweezers, they have the blunt blades on them. So when you pinch the pin bone and pull it out, it doesn't just cut the pin bone. It actually pinches it, pulls it right out. And I mean, if you have really good salmon, you should be able to just go through and pin bone it super quickly. The pin bones don't stick in it. Honestly, if the salmon is frozen, it's actually better to pin bone it if we're like, I've noticed that in Alaska a lot, like when we have fresh salmon that we caught that day, that hasn't been frozen, trying to pin bone it, those bones almost always break off. And I think it's something to do with the cartilage and everything just holding them in, that rigor mortis almost. So I almost prefer using frozen salmon that's been frozen for even a day or two, and then pick those pin bones out of there. So yeah, definitely worth buying a pair of these. They're 15-20 bucks on the internet. Definitely worth it for fish. Felt like there was another question in there too.
Okay, do we need to keep the skin on the sweet potatoes?
You do not have to keep the skin on the sweet potatoes. Nope. You can totally peel those and just roast them with that glaze on there. I really like the peel on potatoes. If I can keep them on there, I really like it, but
Isn't it
Right.
better for you too?
it is. There's a lot of nutrients in pretty much the skin of every vegetable and animal out there. You get the most amount of nutrients from that if you're able to. So any way I can cook something that has the skin on that makes it edible and to where it's good, I'll do it. But if there's a ton of people that don't like skin at all, so you can totally peel those sweet potatoes, cut them up, toss them, roast them.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to cook salmon yourself, you want Jason to cook it for you, we still have some openings. We still have some openings during steelhead season on the north coast of Oregon. So join us this winter in February or March.
Yeah, and it won't be icy, and we're catching fish out here. I caught my first one on a fly rod yesterday. So
Yeah, Jason and Gabe and Sophia hooked 6.
yeah, we hooked 6 yesterday. It was a great day of fishing.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.
Thank you. It was wonderful. And
you.
Jason,
Good job.
David hates sweet potatoes and he's been eating yours off the tray.
Yeah, do it.
So
It's
that's been in my household.
That's awesome. All right, see you guys. Good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Oh.
Sweet.